Hey there, welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. If you're brand new to my YouTube channel, yay, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you. And if you're a returning subscriber, yay, thank you for coming back. I truly appreciate your support. Be sure and like my channel and subscribe if my reviews are actually helpful. My goal is to save you time and money. I hate wasting time and money on films that are not good or not right for me. So my goal is to give you the heads up on the quality and the content of films so that you can make the best decision as to whether or not you want to spend time or money watching a specific film. So the specific film I'm reviewing today is called Killers of the Flower Moon. This very dramatic movie by Paramount Pictures is now playing in theaters. It is rated R and is 3 hours and 26 minutes long. Whew, that is a long movie. I'll talk some more about that here in just a minute. But my overall movie review mom grade is an A. I actually thought it was very well done, and I'll explain a little bit more about that as well. But first, I'm going to give you an overview in a nutshell, and then I'll point out things I really liked and things I really didn't like, as well as offer tips for parents, themes worth talking about, interesting lines, and recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that you might also like. So you ready to dive in? Let's go. All right. So in a nutshell, they had me at Martin Scorsese. His directing is fantastic, but that's not new news at all, is it? He also worked as a screenwriter and a producer on the film. He said that he knew he wanted to make this story into a movie as he was reading the book called Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. He spent hours with Chief Standing Bear of the Osage Nation to grant permission to turn this story into a film. And about the movie, Scorsese said, quote, "It's not a who done it, it's a who didn't do it," end quote. The screenplay was written by Eric Roth along with Martin Scorsese, as I mentioned. And I'm sure that we're going to see this nominated for Best Picture. It's got all of the necessary elements to really capture some Oscar buzz. First, let me give you some tips for parents. This is not an appropriate movie for children. This is not family friendly viewing. They'll probably be bored anyway. But we hear profanity, including some F bombs. We see several people get shot, resulting in disgusting blood splatters. We see a man get poisoned to death. We see other bloodied dead bodies. There's violence with guns, knives, fist fights, and there's murder and fires, destruction. It's not a children's film. Just in case you were thinking you were going to watch this with your family and teach them about Native Americans, this is not the movie for that. Some of the themes that are presented very well are Native Americans and the Osage Nation in particular, greed, the oil industry, progress, capitalism, crime, honesty, standing up for what's right, family, forgiveness, and the formation of the FBI. We get to learn a little bit about the history. But let me tell you about all of the things that I really liked, and that's one of the elements. But first is the stellar cast. It includes Academy Award winners Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, both of those two being favorite actors of Martin Scorsese, and he's put them in many of his films, but also newly awarded Academy Award winner Brendan Fraser. And I was so happy to see him get an award. There are also multi award winners such as John Lithgow and Jesse Plemons. Others that round out the star-studded cast include Lily Gladstone, Tantu Cardinal, William Bellew, and Louis Calsamy. Hopefully I pronounced his name correctly. So I have been a fan of Leonardo DiCaprio since his earliest films and always thought he was a talented chameleon. Many years ago, he played in The Prince and the Pauper, I guess you could say, in the movie The Man in the Iron Mask. And he played this very arrogant, spoiled prince and his brother, who was secretly cast in prison and was wearing this iron mask to hide his identity. And when he's finally released, no spoilers, this is an old movie, but it's a really good one. his whole demeanor and character and physical stature changed. And I was very impressed with him at that point, thinking, we've got a really talented actor here. So he, in this movie, truly transforms into this character, Ernest Burkhart, including his demeanor, his stature. He's got some fake teeth, and his whole facial structure looked different. I thought he did a fantastic job. And by the way, he was paid $30 million for this movie, the most money he's ever made for one film. And yes, that's a ridiculous amount of money, but I thought he did an excellent job. Robert De Niro also stars in the movie, of course, and looks fantastic. He's 80 years old, but he's actually playing a character who was closer to 45 years old when these murders happened in real life. Did I mention this is a true story? Yeah, it is. Director Martin Scorsese quickly selected Lily Gladstone for her role because of the truthfulness in her eyes when they met over Zoom for their first meeting. And I thought it was a very good choice. She carries this elegance about her as a Native American woman. And she did have this something special in her eyes. Many scenes, I was like, whoa, there it is. So very good choice, Martin. There is stunning cinematography by Rodrigo Prieto. We do get to learn about the Indian culture, a little bit of the language, and even an explanation of what the flower moon is. So pay attention to that. Don't fall asleep or run to the bathroom during that part. This was the last movie of actor Larry Sellers, who was actually of Osage and Cherokee Indian descent. While there are Hollywood liberties definitely taken with the film, it's based on a true story and this book. I love how Scorsese incorporated the look and feel of old, tiny black and white photos in the development of the story, particularly in Act One. We see less and less of it as the movie progresses. Fun fact, we learn in the movie that it was the investigation of the murders in Osage County that was the first case given to the newly formed Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. And President J. Edgar Hoover led this case and investigation. The movie cost $200 million to make. It's officially the most expensive biographical movie ever made. I'm thinking they're going to get their money paid back, but we'll look at the box office and see how long that might take. The movie was filmed in Oklahoma, and the ending I thought was very powerful. I loved the idea and thought it was very clever to reveal the rest of the story through a radio show reenactment, including the speakers and the sound effects, reminding us of the time period that this movie took place. And I think all of the costumes and the set designs and everything really did take you back in time. It was a great period piece type of movie. Now, with all of that praise, there were just a few things that I wrote down of things that I didn't like or thought could have been done better or differently. For example, the movie is really, really long. I don't know that we've had a movie this long, but well, yeah, we have. I'm thinking of Gone with the Wind, which was close to 4 hours, right? So while Martin Scorsese is lauded as royalty in Hollywood, a really long movie is often a sign of indulgence to me by a director who doesn't have the grit to make the needed edits. I think that the story could have definitely been told in much less time. Surprisingly, though, this movie is only 3 minutes longer than the Scorsese film called The Irishman, which also stars Robert De Niro. If I had to compare those two movies, I preferred this one. He tends to do a lot of mobster type of movies, and so this one felt different, and I appreciated that. It felt like almost a breath of fresh air, even though the air wasn't that fresh, because there's lots of murders and blood and mayhem and that kind of stuff. I wanted to see the moment that Leonardo DiCaprio's character fell in love with Lily Gladstone's character. I wanted that first magical, awkward kiss, but we don't get it. Instead, it goes from a scene where there's some mild flirting and interest to all of a sudden they're making out in the next scene. And I thought that was a missed opportunity, especially because their relationship is the heart of this movie. So I know Scorsese really loves, you know, the fighting and the shooting and the violence and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, rather than tell the story in simple chronological order as this film does, I think it would have been more interesting to reveal various parts of the story as the FBI uncovered them in the investigation. Now, there are flashbacks for sure, but again, I think it would have been just an interesting way to tell it, to start with the FBI investigation and then work our way backwards, kind of. Anyway, just my 2 cents. Now, I always take notes when I watch movies and write down funny lines and interesting lines so that I can share them with you so you can get a taste of the dialogue and script writing ability. And as I looked at my notes, I realized I didn't write down any funny notes or funny lines. This is a very, very dramatic movie. There are a few moments with very subtle humor, but definitely not a comedy for sure. There are some interesting lines, however, that I wrote down. The first one is when Ernest Burkhart, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, says to Lily Gladstone's character, Molly Burkhart, he doesn't say, I love you, will you marry me? He says, you're going to marry me. I'm like, was that the proposal? And then there's another line early on where people start dropping like flies. There's all these murders, and Molly says, evil surrounds my heart. And a few times during the movie, we hear her narrating her feelings. And it's not throughout the entire film, only a few moments. And so I thought that that was an interesting choice, but it's definitely an interesting line as she's feeling, you know, this impending doom. And many times I'm like yelling at the screen saying, move, leave Osage County. This is dangerous for you. And I don't want to give you any spoilers, but anyway, it is dangerous for her. So let me give you some recommendations for a couple of movies I instantly thought of as I was watching this one. They both happen to be movies about the Osage murders. Well, one of them actually is a book. It's called Tragedies of the Osage Hills, written back in 1926. You can find it on Amazon. So if you're intrigued by this era and these murders, you might be interested in checking that out. The other one is a film, but it's also an old one back from 1959, and it's called The FBI Story. So it focuses more on that origin story of how the FBI came to be, but they definitely talk about the Osage murders because, as I mentioned, it was the first set of murders that the FBI investigated officially from the federal government. Overall, I thought the movie was done very well, especially at the very beginning of the film. It was just beautiful, the way there were vignettes that eventually evolved into scenes, but we see images and hear sounds, and it just set the tone so well. And I was like, Scorsese really is a master filmmaker, and those first scenes especially demonstrated that to me. Of course, the rest of the film is done very well as well. Be prepared to have it be very long and very sobering, but look at those eyes, not just Lily Gladstone's, but Leonardo DiCaprio's face, and so much more. Anyway, I thought it was a very well done film. Comment down below. Let me know what you think if you watch it, if you think it'll win Best Picture. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I think it's going to be nominated for sure. Anyway, have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for visiting. When you get a chance, go visit me on Instagram as Movie Review Mom and as Trina Boice. That's me. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.